from Western North Dakota. The men and women in blue are coming right back at you. We're straight off the cuff here with episode 23. Happy Memorial Day weekend. Just passed us.
Yeah.
LT?
Yeah, it was a good one. The sun finally decided to come out after that week-long worth of rain.
After it felt like we were living in Seattle for a second.
Exactly, yeah. I have to start gathering two of every animal and wiping out the lumber section at Menards.
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly what it felt like. No, it was good. It was a good weekend. It's been a little bit since we've been on. We've been very busy. Our DPA has been busy. We had a couple of our big events. Department's been busy. Really does kind of feel like summer is right upon us. We're starting to feel that rush, I guess, that summertime excitement and increased activities, which is good and bad at the same time. But
right, yeah, it definitely taxes a lot of us here with the amount of extra free time that we have to do some stuff like this. But at the same time, it pays off dividends in the end, though, because a lot of good activities that we had lined up here with Daddy-Daughter Dance or Heroes Ball. A couple other ones coming on the horizon here, but well attended by many. Yeah, no,
it was Heroes Ball this year was a success again. That event has just really, it's been absolutely excellent. I mean, ever since Heroes Ball came apart, the partnership between us, the fire department, domestic violence.
Yep.
When I talked to Lieutenant Lyons. This was the biggest year, the most fundraising that we've ever had between the organizations. So, fantastic work done by all on that committee. And then we basically spilled right in from that. We came into our Daddy-Daughter Dance, which is always taxing for us. But
3 nights of Baby Shark.
That's exactly it. And, this year, again, I want to say, again, record-breaking amount of attendees, record-breaking in the amount of charity that we ended up coming into on the DPA, which, that DPA, we end up pushing that money right back out into the community in different ways and forms. So it's a great event, I think. Then right after that, we did our Skate with a Cop. Had to do it a little bit later this year than in the past, due to some scheduling and some ice time and things like that. Ice
had to come out, but then it came back on, and it just a matter of trying to line up the right weekend for it. And it seems like in the past we try to line it up but something else is always going. I think we were up against the monster trucks that were in town that day, so it turned out probably not as big as it was in years past, but still had some good fun out there, and always laughed at the cops that slip and fall.
Yeah,
a couple bruised egos, but they did just fine.
No, and it really is a good event. We definitely look forward. Anybody that missed it this year, anybody that looks forward to that event, we probably are going to be pushing that guy back into that February March time frame. When I hate for people to have to go and sit on a cold slab of ice when it was actually nice out. I think it was one of our 90-degree days.
Yep.
Not a lot of people wanting to go jump out on the ice when he's finally warming up, but yeah, then we do have a couple things right around the corner here that we wanted to highlight, which was June 7th, which is going to be, depending on when you're listening to this, June 7th is next weekend. We've got our Cops and Bobbers.
And Bobbers, yep.
That's a big one.
The Dickinson Dike, I think that's in conjunction with the Free Fishing Day in North Dakota.
It is. Yep, that's exactly what it is. So we'll have a bunch of law enforcement officers. Typically, it's held by the DPA, but a lot of times the sheriff's office comes over. Probation, parole has come over. Game and Fish obviously comes over, but good day if you've got somebody, a little tyke that's interested in catching some fish. I can promise you'll catch fish. You don't have to be much of an angler. You'll catch something.
Most definitely. Yep.
Yeah, you'll catch something. We've also that same day. It's a busy day. That same day is the Guns and Hoses softball game.
Yep, down at the right prior to the Big Six game that night. Not sure who they're playing. I think it was Minot that weekend. I forget who they're playing. But yeah, right before that, we'll do our we'll see who can come out on top this year. But the roster's a little lighter than usual.
It's a little thin. Yep. Yeah, it's a little thin. And when you've got the fire department right now, when they're actively training against us, we'll see if we can keep it competitive. But we talked a little bit. We've been busy inside the walls of the police department. We went through. We had a couple promotions. We had a couple of resignations of our corporal position, which is like our first line supervisor.
Right.
So we were looking at candidates into that world, and recently we just had both of these guys on the podcast.
Yeah, they're right across the table from us, and very, very competent guys, and those that have seen the episode will attest to exactly what we saw in them as well. So the Corporal Andy Stidham and then Corporal Alex Schroeder. So Alex will get his official pinning ceremony here later in mid-June here.
Yeah, probably mid-June.
Yep, and then Andy was officially pinned here a couple weeks ago. Did the post on that. So both of them are excellent leaders, up and coming leaders in our department. Real competent guys, and they got a big task ahead of them, and obviously steering their shift in a certain direction. So we're excited for them. We're proud of them, and we're looking forward to what's ahead.
Yeah, no. Anyways, when I reflected back and we had made our notes here for this episode, I looked at it and I thought to myself, what. That really kind of was even the focus of that episode.
It was.
Just kind of organically. We didn't go into that episode with Andy and Alex with any kind of an agenda, but a lot of our talk was leadership. With them kind of taking over new roles in that SWAT team and them talking about it. So yeah, very very proud of those two. Very happy for them. Another thing that happened here. So Mike, you've been tackling for the last couple of years. You put together our annual report.
Yep.
So all of the 24 stats, it takes some time because everything that we have, it flows through our FBI crime stats. We like for things to be pure. We like for things to be correct. So it takes a little bit of time to put together, but that has been packaged and it's ready to rock and roll. Yep.
So again, like you were saying, the big part that we're usually waiting on is the state to compile the NIBRS statistics. That's how many robberies we had, how many aggravated assaults we have. That usually doesn't get finalized until that last week of April and into May. So a little bit later this year, it seems like. But those numbers finally came in, and plus we also like to report on the activity within our school system. Yep. And obviously, school just got out last week, so we were just waiting on those final numbers to come in, and then we just put finishing touches on that. So it's at the printers right now, and we should be getting that the official tallies. I think you might have some rough tallies here, maybe some preliminary ones that
so we have come up with. We like to, both Mike and I think you probably got the vibe of this from any of our listeners that have been watching this, is both of us, I think we're numbers driven. We like for things to make sense to us in our minds, and we like to go back to stats. And one of the things that I've been tracking in my office and bringing back out, one of it is it's a good job that's being done by the street. Obviously, it shows competency and capability. The other one, though, is it's a bit of a concerning piece, especially coming out of Memorial Day and moving into more of the summer months. And I want to make some hot topics on this before we jump into our special guest. And it really is, we're moving in the wrong direction in this town when it comes to impaired driving.
Right. Yep.
Now we're talking about driving under the influence, whether you're alcohol, whether it's marijuana, whether it's illicit street drugs. We're also talking about refusal to submit to chemical tests. If somebody gets pulled over, somebody's intoxicated, the officer's trying to run them through field sobriety, and that person's refusing it. Both of those two get clumped together as basically the same charge.
Right,
somebody doesn't get out of a DUI if you refuse the test.
Exactly.
So those are the notes that you're looking at here. And this is from January 1 until current today. So May 27th is the date that we're making this. And the numbers are just concerning. When you look at this year, we've got 99 arrests for those levels of offenses, right? So that would be your DUIs, your refusals. Last year, we were at 69. The year before that, 47. The year before that, 55. We're not moving in the right direction.
No, that's good inclination for like stock market and your retirement portfolio, but not for DUI stats.
That's exactly it. And then you couple that with, we're moving into the summer months. We're moving into like more people out moving around and doing more things, going to the lake and probably having some more drinks. And we're seeing this, and we just want to, at whatever platform we can get this out, get the message out. I know we don't have a ton of options. I know that Uber doesn't exist, and it's not necessarily the easiest to find sober rides. But please, individuals, we need to do better. This needs to be more of not just police officers focusing on this. This just isn't. We need to pull the numbers in the right direction.
Right. These are not per se victimless crimes. I mean, I've been on numerous really, really bad DUI related crashes, some fatalities and stuff like that. Those stick with you, especially the toil it takes on families that are affected by that. It's not a victimless crime to go out and do that. I mean, it's causing livelihoods so it's something that we take very seriously to enforce. And those numbers obviously speak volumes there that we obviously have a problem here in Southwest North Dakota that we got to start to shore up a little bit here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you really hit it when you said it's not a victimless crime. And I'm sure, Mike, you're so good at patching stuff in. You could patch this in as far as the pure numbers, but I believe it's somewhere in the ballpark of about 60% or more of fatality accidents are alcohol related.
Right.
You know, and that comes straight from Vision Zero. And it's just, if we can start to bring the trends into the right direction, I mean, what better thing can we do for public safety? So,
yeah. I've been seeing some of these blood out. So it's not only just driving drunk, which is the 0.08 threshold for the per se law here in North Dakota. They're not just a little drunk; they're a lot drunk.
Yeah.
they're snotty drunk. I mean,
Yeah.
above 0.2 is three times legal limit that we're seeing cross here. So it's definitely a lot of abuse to be had with drinking and driving.
No, absolutely. Absolutely it is. We've got a special guest on today. We've talked about him in the past. We brought up some things in his ballpark and in his world, and we thought it was time to bring him on and hear his story. He's got one of the more unique stories. I think everybody, when they hear him, is going to have a new appreciation for this individual. He likes to...
He's rolling his eyes. Yeah. That's not the case.
He likes to... This man is one of the most humble individuals I think that we've ever had or that I've ever been able to meet inside of our walls.
Easily.
It's not a characteristic that a lot of type A people, have, but this man has it in spades. And I think the more people hear his story, you cannot help but to be a fan of this individual.
Totally.
So
yep.
Today with us, Senior Patrol Officer Jarett Blain.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, welcome, sir. So we like to do this. We're going to set the stage. We give you the platform, we give you the floor for right now. Tell the audience who you are, where you grew up, kind of what brought you here to Dickinson, and then all of a sudden we're going to go off the cuff for you.
All right, sounds good. Well, my name is Jarett. I grew up in a small town in southeast Montana called Broadus, about 400 people. My time at Broadus was fun. I kind of miss the small town. That's kind of the reason why I like Dickinson a little bit too, because it still has a little bit of that small town feeling. But the way I found my way to Dickinson was after I graduated from college, moved back home to Broadus. Was a youth pastor there for about 3 years, and that's when I met my now wife, Georgia. And she was teaching here at Hope Christian Academy, and so I decided that it would be better for me to come here instead of her come to Broadus, where there's not a whole lot. So that's how I found my way to Dickinson, and been here ever since. A lot of stuff has happened between now and then, but a lot of I don't know how much you want me to.
No, we're gonna jump into all that stuff.
Okay, perfect. Well, that's how I made it here. Yeah.
So I do a lot of our texting when it comes to individuals that are looking for, I'm interested in becoming a cop and I don't know, do I qualify for this or, I don't have any training. So you graduated from college. Tell the audience, what is your degree in?
My degree is called Global Studies. I have a minor in communication, but Global Studies is basically a pastoral degree. They take out some of like the church leadership, church finance, like that type of stuff, and they put it in cross-cultural classes. And so it's a missions degree. So my goal when I was in college, when I decided on that degree, was to become a missionary someday. And when I graduated from a private Christian school, I realized that I had way more college debt than I could handle moving overseas somewhere. So I ended up finding a job instead, and life has led me in a different direction.
Yeah. But not a lot of people, I don't think, would ever perceive and say, I think that this future police officer is going to go and get a degree in pastoral studies or becoming a missionary and then work as a youth pastor and then ultimately fall into a career in law enforcement where this isn't a short time now. You've been with us nearly coming on 5 years now, right?
Yep. August will be 5 years.
Right, so you're starting to solidify yourself that like this is the mission, the real mission that you got put on, and so what about law enforcement? What got Jarett Blain to jump into the pool of even putting your name in the hat?
It's a very anticlimactic story, but I think it's kind of interesting and maybe a little bit silly too. When I left high school and went to college, I had written off law enforcement. My dad was the sheriff in Powder River County. He was a sheriff for 12 years. by the time he retired from there. And it was, I mean, the county is 1,500 people total, and there were 3, him, an undersheriff, and a deputy. So 3 people working 24 hours. That's the shift. I mean, whoever could fill. And so my dad was extreme. I would say he's an extreme man of integrity. And so he did his job well, I think. And he was never home because he was always working. He was always putting in the hours to do his job well. And so I was like, nope, I'm not doing law enforcement. I'm not following my father's footsteps. I'm not doing that. And so I went to college. I said good riddance to Southeast Montana and went to Oklahoma. And I matured and realized that, it was kind of a cool thing to do. But it was actually the year after I graduated, I got a job at Dillard's. And I don't know what Dillard's is, but it's basically just a clothing store, department store. And I sold men's shoes for a little while, and then about halfway through the year, I got put on full-time and sold women's shoes. Okay,
it's like an El Bundy
really,
thing here.
really invigorating. Yeah, but I was helping a little old lady put on tennis shoes one day, just find the perfect pair of shoes, and I realized that I really like to help people. Like, it was literally that simple.
Yeah.
And so when I got the offer to go back home, be youth pastor, and match my degree, it matched some other things that I really liked. It was part-time, so then I also worked on a ranch part-time, same ranch I grew up working on. And it just flowed really well. It just all fell into place. Yeah. And I really liked it. I knew I wanted to serve in that way, so I jumped on it and went home. Fast forward a couple of years after I met my wife, I actually applied to the Dickinson PD after about a semester of working as a paraprofessional at the middle school with youth here in Dickinson. And I made it to the chief's interview, and I thought my first interview went really well. I thought it went really well. And then I made it to the chief's interview, and looking back now, I can tell I answered some questions very wrongly. And I didn't make it through the chief's interview that first time I interviewed. And what led me to that was that idea of serving, and how can I be in the community that I'm in without being in a ministry position per se, but still be able to serve people. Yeah. And what better than law enforcement? I actually applied to the Highway Patrol as well after a little while, and COVID kind of messed with that, I think. I'm going to give that the reason why.
That's the reason, not the chief's interview failure on that one.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's kind of the reason why I decided to go into law enforcement. Kind of along the same lines, I didn't get that job that first time, and so what else am I going to do? I actually signed up for the North Dakota Army National Guard, which might be on the list of things to talk about, but I was kind of in the same headspace of I wanted to serve. I'd always thought about going in the military, so I signed up for the North Dakota Army National Guard as a combat medic. So I was gone for a year, from about 2000, would have been August 2019. I left to go to basic training and advanced individual training, or AIT, and came back May of 2020, right during COVID, and George Floyd protests. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so my first drill back from guard training was going to Fargo with the National Guard. And they sent me, and I didn't have a medic bag. I didn't have anything. I'm like, I have no clue what I'm doing here. I don't even know why you sent me here. But
new soldier out in Fargo.
Yeah, and they sent me over there, which it was fun. It was a good experience to have. Came back and ended up applying for the Highway Patrol. That's when I applied for the Highway Patrol, and here. And I really do believe that COVID was the reason with the Highway Patrol. Who knows what would have happened if that wouldn't have fallen through, but they called back. They said I had my second interview, and then they called and was like, well, we're canceling all interviews. I'm like, oh, okay. And then I got a call from the Dickinson Police Department. So I went through both my interviews there, and here I am.
And here you are.
Yeah.
COVID was good for something.
COVID was good for something.
Yeah, it probably got me a job.
So The only reason, so that there's something similar between everything that you've talked about, and that's the helping people and the serving others, right? When did the National Guard, so there is something with law enforcement and the osmosis, but maybe after the rebellion stage, you're like, maybe that actually was cooler than I thought it was, and that maybe was the drawback to law enforcement. But how about the military? Was the military like something that in young Jarett's mind, I wanted to do that, I wanted to serve, or was that almost something different?
When I right out of high school, we had the Marine recruiter come to our house, and my mom talked me out of it, which I'm kind of glad she did. I don't know if I could have been a jarhead, but yeah, I think after college and after some life experience, it literally just comes back to I wanted to serve, and not only serve my country. I like to think most of my answers are super cliche. I just want to serve. A lot of people say that, like, no, like, right, why'd you really want to join? Well, I want to drive cars fast. Whatever people say. I want to put people in jail. Whatever they say. I don't mind going to the call with a little old lady that needs help,
Yeah.
or, stuff like that. So I wanted to serve. National Guard was no different. I actually chose combat medic because if you look at the different jobs within any organization, there's often a job that's in the organization that is a way to serve the people there, not only others. So like police officer, of course, we're going out into the community and we're serving the community, but then also within that organization, what's the role that's serving your coworkers?
Right.
And honestly, that's what a combat medic does.
Yeah.
Like their sole role is to take care of your fellow soldiers. And so that's honestly why I chose combat medic. I mean, I had no medical experience. I took a biology class in college, like that's about it.
Yeah.
And so going into that, I loved it. My first unit was kind of interesting. My first unit was military police unit, the 816th here in Dickinson. I was a part of the detachment that drilled over in Bismarck, but I was a police officer on the civilian side, and I was a medic in a military police unit.
Yeah.
So we would like go do military police drills or like different stuff, and sometimes I felt like I could do some of the stuff better than the MPs could.
We have a disclaimer on that we do not endorse that.
Just because I did it full time for a job, some of the stuff, like a traffic stop or searching or, stuff like that. Obviously, the MPs do stuff on a much larger scale, like setting up a detainee control point, which is, we don't do that, or they'll set up like traffic control points. And sometimes that happens on the civilian side where we'll do a traffic control point for like a DUI checkpoint or, something like that, but it doesn't happen very often. And so, I actually did get some cool experiences doing that, getting to shoot the fun, like a 50 caliber and, 249, stuff like that. That was a really good experience.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So what are the, 2 weeks a year, 1 week in a month type thing, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
But yours is a little bit different. What does your drill usually look like? What are you tasked with as a combat medic?
Yeah. So, when I was with the MP unit, it was pretty much that. It was fairly normal. I went 1 week in a month, 2 weeks in the summer for annual training, and then I was able to get my fives I became a sergeant within the Guard, and I switched units to the North Dakota Medical Detachment, or the MedDet, and so. In that unit, I still do once a month, but part of annual training is only about a week. And then we have what they call Tuesday PHAs, or I'm going to get it wrong, physical health assessments, I think is what PHA. And we literally service the whole state and all the Guard members for the North Dakota Army National Guard in doing those annual physical health assessments. And so I see on any given weekend, we'll see anywhere from 50 to 150 packs or soldiers on a weekend. And I do simple stuff, but blood pressure, vitals,
Sure.
Vision screening, vaccinations, blood draws, urine,
So how many
urine
people,
testing.
are in that
stuff.
unit that you're a part of?
I'm going to lie to you on that one. I don't know.
Not sure. Okay.
Yeah, it's a very unique unit because a majority of is made up of providers or doctors and nurses. And so I'm not sure how many doctors and nurses there are, but then if I spitballed a number, there's probably 30 enlisted, I would say.
Yeah.
20 or 30, it's just a completely different model of a unit than a regular unit. Because most of the time in a regular unit, when you line up in formation, you don't have like lieutenant colonels and stuff like that in your formation with you. It's usually other enlisted, in your platoon or whatever. We just don't. It's just different.
It's just different. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's like when you talk about like picking that version of joining the medical combat to serve those other people. Like, let's jump in now. You mentioned briefly that you were a paraprofessional, which is what a lot of people are going to know you for now, because you've been to middle school now with us for 2 years, three full years now.
Yep.
So 3 full years, just finished it.
2.5 if you consider that semester I was gone for most of it.
There you go.
Yeah.
So current role is you are the Dickinson Middle School's SRO.
Yep.
You've been a paraprofessional, so you've been in that school as a para. Now you've been in it as an SRO. What is the biggest challenge right now that as an SRO that you have been dealing with or you've been trying to work through, because you've had your time in there long enough to where you've been able to see something and you're kind of trying to massage it and trying to figure out how do you smooth out the wrinkles?
Yeah. I would say the biggest challenge I have is probably kind of twofold. The first one I'll bring up is social media or technology use. As everyone knows, by doing this right here, technology use, social media, it's exploded in the last 20 years, give or take, whatever. And it's no different for young kids. What's happening is that I see is we have junior high kids, anywhere between 10 and 15 years old. I'll give it a little bit of cushion on each end, that have open access to technology. And by technology, I'm usually referring to a cell phone, if not a computer, a laptop of some kind at home. And I define social media at the middle school as communication online. Very easily define it that way. Communication online. So if we define social media in that way, pretty much everyone that has access to technology has access to social media, because you can text, you can email, anything that you can send and not get back, right?
Yeah.
And so I see kids that have just untethered access to technology. And what that does is, I would say, I'm going to throw out there a number. It's just me guessing, but I would say 85% of the cases that I work with either start on social media, like they stemmed from some sort of drama coming from social media, or after it's over or during the middle of it, it's going to hit social media.
Yeah.
And so we just can't get away from it. For instance, if we take bullying back in the day, right? I'd go to school and this kid would pick on me, and when I'd leave school, I wouldn't see him again. And these days we have cyberbullying. So not only do I go to school and this kid picks on me, but then I go home and someone else is picking on me, if not the same kid is picking on me at home on social media. And so there's just no gap. There's no gap in that social media, getting rid of it and being able to separate ourselves from it. And a lot of personal preferences go into social media. So we'll have one parent that allows this platform and one parent that doesn't. So then when we come to school, we have kids that are learning things way beyond their years than what we used to learn. And other kids that are even further behind.
Yeah.
And so I feel like there's a age gap. I can't think of the right word. Age gap in.
Well, that middle school is a strange age anyway. When you take
Yeah.
8th grade, 7th grade,
Yep.
6th grade, I mean, those kids, they're all maturing at different stages. They're all going through some things. Then when you add in exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. So I would say the age gap has widened, where worldly maturity, is that maybe the right
That
way to
makes
say
sense.
it?
Yeah, sure.
Like worldly maturity, that gap, some junior high kids just have a way higher worldly maturity than they used to.
Right.
And so now you're dealing with kids that understand things that they used to not be able to understand. So that's one challenge, is social media and just the untethered access to social media. The other challenge I would say is the inability for myself to act upon some things. And I'll do a little bit of history here. When I first joined the SRO world it would have been 2022, they implemented in North Dakota CHINS. CHINS is an acronym for Child in Need of Services. It basically is another stem of social services. It's not CPS. It's their own thing. But CHINS, what the idea was behind CHINS was that you would have these kids, and that would be cited for things, and they would go into the juvenile justice system.
Yeah.
The idea of CHINS was to remove them certain things. So it would be runaway juvenile, unruly juvenile, truancy.
So some of the delinquent acts. We're not talking about major criminal offenses, but the
not at all.
acts.
Not at all. Exactly that, delinquent acts. And it would take those out of the juvenile justice system and kind of give them a place where they could. The CHINS worker could assist the parents in either getting resources to help or something along those lines. So they could give them Sunrise Youth Bureau as a place to go take classes if they were struggling with anger, because they're an unruly juvenile at home. And so they took that stuff away from law enforcement. But what happened was then there wasn't any backbone behind it. And for some kids, that's all they need. They just need an officer to come to the house and be like, don't do that. And then possibly get some resources for the parent, because sometimes the parent will actually take those resources and utilize that and learn or whatever. But what we see now is we have, especially with like truancy and runaway juvenile, I see it most prevalent in those cases where we have somebody that gets, I'll call it cited for truancy, but it's the CHINS, referred. There we go. Thank you. Get referred to CHINS for truancy or runaway juvenile, and they go through the process, and then it just reoccurs.
Yeah.
And so we'll call them repeat offenders. And a week later, we're at the house again, or they're not showing up to school again, and we're sending them up for CHINS once more. And we could do this as many times as we want. The idea, I think, behind it was that if it's a repeat offender and it's not working, then there's something in the household that's not working. And so then you would send over to social services CPS because there's something else going on here and we need to look into it. Well, in some of those cases, the parents, like you can tell, the parents are doing everything they can and the kid is just not getting it.
Yeah.
And they just keep running away from home, keep running away from home, keep running away. I mean, it can get annoying saying that, but that's what it's kind of like. It's annoying. And so there's no backbone with CHINS. The parent can say, I don't want your help. Even if they do say, I do want your help, the kid doesn't want it. And so that is a struggle is what do you do with it? What do we do with a young person that refuses to listen to parents, listen to law enforcement, listen to a CHINS worker, and just does what they want? But legally speaking, the parent is very responsible for that child, but they can't control them.
Yeah. So mean, Chins is nothing new. I mean, like you said, Chins has been around for a couple of years. You and I actually, Jarett, we were invited to be a part of the community blueprint where we were having like major discussions, and this Chins conversation, even though it does really impact law enforcement, especially somebody like our SROs really feel a lot of the roadblocks, I guess would be a good word for it, when it comes to Chins. In theory, Chins was a great idea, and it was a really effective way to use a progressive model and to say not all of these kids need to go through the justice system. There's a certain amount of kids that we can possibly counsel out and move them into a different realm. It's just what you highlight and what we feel here in the department has been, well, what happens if some of the players that are supposed to be playing that game refuse to follow the rules? Because that's where some of what we are seeing is there wasn't enough parameters put in place. They don't have a real consequence. So when you bring up a repeat offender, sometimes a child just needs to have a real consequence to know this action is not accepted because of this. And they just don't necessarily see that, because there is parts of this new version of progressive peace, and that you can talk to it. Look at the vaping program. I mean, vaping is a major issue, and look at what we do now with vaping compared to, instead of Jarett just going out and citing all these children for having something they're not supposed to have, or using it, or bringing it to school, they're educating, they're taking them into Sunrise, and they're helping in a different way, in a different capacity. But I think that's kind of where Chins needs to continue to evolve. I don't think that it doesn't need to be anything scrapped. I just think that it needs to be readdressed.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree with you. I actually personally believe that the idea of Chins is a wonderful idea. The idea behind it, in theory, it is great. But when you have those high flyers, there has to be something else.
Yeah. And
so that's where we run into it. And something that I think is kind of cool that came out of Chins coming into being was a partnership between Dickinson Middle School and Sunrise Youth Bureau here in Dickinson. Sunrise Youth Bureau, the ladies over there are awesome, and they do great work. They provide kind of a community resource for young people to be able to stay there. In some cases, if it's like a foster care thing, they can be there for a certain amount of days. Or let's say domestic violence, for some reason, we respond to a call where there is a parent and a kid that are going head to head, and we just need to separate for a little bit.
Yeah.
Beautiful place for them to go. Very comfortable. The ladies there are wonderful, that type of thing. Well, there's a partnership that happened between Dickinson Middle School and Sunrise Youth Bureau that they now allow not only classes like the tobacco classes or tobacco education on an individual scale, but then they also will come into the school and do different classes. I'll call them an academy, if you will, where they'll come in and give a group of kids a talk about tobacco, or talk about self-esteem or anger issues, and they'll do that conversation. And what they also do is they provide a place for out-of-school suspension. And so some of the kids, let's say we have a kid that gets in trouble, the school will offer a day at Sunrise Youth Bureau where they can not only get a class, but then also not be at home playing video games all day, and they can do homework.
Just a real win-win when you look at instead of out of school suspension. It's not like the school wants to hand these out, but they knew that if you send somebody home, I mean, it's a burden on the parents. It's a burden. You don't know what the child is doing. It's like now Sunrise is really filling that gap, and probably putting a lot of resources towards that mentorship piece that we had seen failing the system in the past. And I mean, it's just some excellent stories coming out of that Sunrise and what those people are doing. Let's go back. Your first problem, it interests me. The second one is something that the Chins issue is an ongoing venture. I think a lot of the people that are at the table having hard conversations with Chins are hearing it, and they're it'll take some time to evolve that. But go back to the first one. So there's been some things that have, I think of TikTok trends, right? And you were in the school during some of this stuff where we're talking about maybe stealing stuff, destroying things. We're talking about, you brought up cyberbullying, things like that.
Yeah.
The new law that got passed where it says no cell phones inside of the schools. I'm curious to know an SRO's perspective, seeing it and highlighting that social media portion to it. What do you see as something that parents can take away that can also help with, because that's not going to solve our problem to its totality here, but what's some advice that parents can have?
Yeah. So I actually haven't read the full new bill that went through, so I don't know the exact wordage of what's happening. My understanding is that it's not that, this is my understanding again, it's not that the cell phone won't be allowed in the school at all. There just has to be, the school has to provide a way for them to not have it on their person. It can't be used during the school day. And so preliminary talks I've heard of, like possibly, all right, when it comes in, it's going to be in the locker every day, or we're going to have, the school buy a lockbox that has a whole bunch of little cubbies in it, and you put your cell phone in there, or like I don't know, I call it a Faraday bag, but each kid will have a bag that they'll put, I don't know what they'll do, but they'll come up with something, a way so that each kid will not have their cell phone during the day. And the idea is to get away from that social media of any kind, right?
So, I know exactly what you're talking about. I was in, I happened to actually jump in and do a guest speaking role at the CTE building, which is where you're going to be spending some of your time next year. But they had exactly one of those things. It was like a plexiglass structure that was on the wall with little compartments where the phones could go. The high school has actually been experimenting a little bit more with this, but this is something where the middle school, at this age, these middle schoolers don't necessarily even possess all of the maturity that they should when it comes to the cell phone piece. So, and it was a difficult question, but more so for parents, even when you're thinking about your role as an SRO and you see how the kids use social media in negative ways. I mean, there is positive ways to some of this. You brought up communication. I think that's a perfect definition for it. The cyberbullying, and then when you take into account, like, how many times have we seen where there's images that get sent between these middle schoolers and things like that. Like, I just really do think that there's some education from a parent's perspective on what that, you can't take any of this stuff back. And at that age, I mean, they're really looking for some guidance and some mentorship.
I tell you what, I've had several people in my office at the middle school, and that come in and, parent says they want to meet, they bring their kid with them, and the stuff out of their mouth is like, well, my son came to me last night, and he told me that he met somebody online, and he sent a photo of himself to them. He didn't know really who they were. As soon as he sent the photo, an inappropriate photo, they immediately texted back with a screenshot of his contacts and a demand of saying, if you don't send me money, I will forward this picture to everybody on your contact list. We'd call that sextortion. And multiple times I've had cases like that. I've had cases where we have a young lady that presents herself to the school counselor and is like, I have a photo, crying. I have a photo that I sent, and now the boys are sharing it, which is going to happen if you send something to people. And so a lot of times what I see is we in the social media world, we're friends. And then something happens and we fall out and we're not friends anymore. And so then we all have each other's content, whatever that content may be, whether it is nude photos or inappropriate photos, or whether it's something I said that wasn't nice, right? Just this ammunition, if you will, to just use at each other. And we say these things when we're friends, and then it just becomes ammunition when we're not. And in junior high, every other week you're friends, and the other weeks you're not friends. So it just happens so much. Social media just creates an avenue for so much more drama than there needs to be.
Yeah.
Especially in an age when drama is already,
that's their lives.
Yeah.
That's how they live.
Yeah. So social media just is like an exponent on this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's.
I would, to answer your question a little bit for parents, a lot of things that I hear, some tips for parents as far as social media and technology use. My biggest thing is you have to set up, like any relationship, you have to set up expectations before you give them the device.
Yeah.
Right? All right, here this is, they get in trouble. Well, they didn't know the expectation. All right, keep the cell phone here, talk to them about the expectations, then give them the cell phone, right? Same thing with, say they already have a cell phone, but they want Snapchat. Give them the expectations before they start using Snapchat. And so I often say who, what, when, where, okay? And even why. But talk with your kid about who's on social media, who are you friends with? Do I know who they are? Do you actually know who they are, right? Know all that stuff. What? All right. What are you going to be able to use your technology for? Is it going to be Snapchat, or is it just going to be texting? Are you going to be able to do other things like Facebook or I don't know what
TikTok,
I mean. Yeah,
whatever
TikTok,
whatever
whatever you want.
Is,
are you going to be? What? What are you going to be doing? When are you going to be able to use your phone? Is this going to be a thing where we do send it to school with you? Maybe that's a house rule that would be a great house rule. Well, then you're not allowed to have it at school anyway, right? You can't have it on you, so might as well just leave it at home. And then somebody can't steal your $1,000 cell phone, right? Yeah. And then at home, when? Do we have it at the dinner table? Do we have it when we're watching a movie? Like just create those parameters. And then where? Do I allow my 14-year-old son to have a cell phone in his bedroom? Do I allow him to take it into the bathroom? Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Just create those parameters, because if you don't create those parameters beforehand, there's going to be issues in there, So, and then the other thing that I would say is always keep the line of communication open, because if you as a parent don't keep the line of communication open when it comes to technology and social media use, there's going to be things that are hidden. And if you don't educate yourself and keep that line of communication open with your young person, you're going to have trouble. You're going to have trouble. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
And it's so important for parents to take the lead on this too. I mean, remember, you're the adult in the room. You do have the say in this. I mean, they're under 18. You do that is your technically your property. You do kind of have the right to be nosy, but more on, like you were saying with technology, kind of leaning on that. So instead of having to be the nosy parent, scrolling through and seeing there are a lot of apps out there. I know Bark is one that's really popular. It's money well spent to be able to flag and anytime there's maybe suicidal ideations, a text message or something like that, or graphic photos being sent, it gives you a notification on the parent side of it. So technology can very much kind of fill that gap there between being overly nosy about stuff, but at the same time giving a little bit of assurance that your kids aren't traveling down a track you don't want to travel down.
Yeah,
I really think it's important to highlight what you said, where it's really the parents need to get more active. You need to be more active, and it's not in a way that is doesn't have to be all disciplinarian. It's a lot of it is coaching. A lot of it is just understanding. And then I like Mike's idea also, to where it's just like, make it easy on yourself. It's in today's day and age, there is an efficient way to do things, but a lot of it is the effort. I mean, the effort has to be there from the parent's perspective. You wouldn't leave an alcoholic home with alcohol all day long and expect nothing bad to happen.
Yep.
The same has to be had. We talked about the maturity levels. We talked about they live in a life of drama. It is just, it's too tempting. I mean, the brains that make up social media, they're successul for a reason.
Yeah.
It's to captivate you, it's to keep you there and to hook
dopamine
in.
dump.
Yeah,
kind of along those same lines that we talk about juveniles driving, and we have a full driver's ed, and you would give them the keys, right? You don't just give them the keys and say, go at it.
Correct.
You train them first.
Correct.
It's the same thing here. And a lot of times it's almost just as dangerous for cell phone use, because we have young ladies or young men that get cyberbullied or whatever it may be, and fall into depression and become suicidal, start having suicidal ideations, and that's, in my opinion, can be worse than not training your kid to drive a car, right? Well, you're just setting them up for failure.
No, you're 100% right. It's one of those ones where technology has progressed so fast. So the evolution of cars progressed nice and slow, and everybody kind of understood it. And you're like, we should probably train somebody on this, and we should try to figure out how to make it safer. But it was years in the making. When you look at technology, and you talked about the boom. I mean, it's exploded since you've been in there, and it's just going to continue to get worse. Younger kids now are becoming more savvy. I mean, you hand an iPad to your youngest, they're going to be able to figure it out faster than you probably could have. Yep. It's just that they're born with a natural ability to figure things out like that.
Educating yourself as a parent is huge.
Yeah. Well said. We're going to switch gears. So you brought up something. You brought up a gap maybe that we had, and then you also filled it with something that I think we probably all were trying to figure out, like, what is the lasting legacy going to be? We've talked about Cooper several times on this podcast, and Cooper's been a big part of everything that we had here. But you brought up an idea, and you kind of merged a couple of things together, and I think it's just absolutely fantastic. And last week you got the honor to be able to hand out the first of them, and it's what we're calling the Cooper coin. Yeah. And I want you just to describe, just so we can go deeper even than our social media pieces, what is the Cooper coin? Why did you come up with it? And what is it?
Yeah. So I had an idea, and I got it from my military background a little bit, of a challenge coin for youth leadership. I wanted a challenge coin that we could, as a police department, give out to just youth in the community that are doing awesome things. And so I came up with the idea, presented it, was able to get a little bit of funding from the Dickinson Police Association, and then also from Chief. Chief awarded a little bit of money there as well to get this coin going and up. And then I got to give credit to Chief Siani, because he's really the one that kind of helped merge it with the idea of having the Cooper Award or Cooper coin.
Yeah, to keep his legacy.
Yep. And he morphed it into more of an award than I originally had in my mind. I was thinking more of just, a coin where you walk up to somebody like, hey, here's your, thank you for, what you did for your youth leadership, whatever you're doing. Have a good day. And he morphed it into an award where we can, as a community, but through the PD, a community through the PD can award young people that are just outshining their peers in leadership.
Really, I mean, when you say outshining their, yes, but it's almost modeling. A lot of what we've been talking today is
leadership.
Yeah, we see so much in law enforcement, and for us, for SROs, we see the poor choices, the poor behaviors, that somebody maybe going down a path. We really wanted to highlight. Let's show some of these models of these individuals that are making the right choices, that are doing the right things, and I think it's a perfect idea that you had created.
Yeah, my idea was that it would be for, so our first recipient this last week was at the middle school, Gabby. She's a wonderful young lady and is in National Junior Honor Society, student council. She actually got voted in by her peers to be the student class president next year for the freshman class, which is cool. Awesome. I mean, her peers are even noticing her, right? And then she's in... I said student council, but she does track, volleyball. I can't remember all the sports, but several sports. Drama. She's in dance. Like she does a lot of stuff, and huge accolades from her teachers and all that stuff. So stuff like that. Like, she's just a very outstanding, well-rounded leader within whatever she does, whether that be at school, at church, whatever she's doing. So that was kind of one avenue that I envisioned, that being used for. The other thing that I kind of envisioned it for was, let's say we have an accident on Villard, and the first person on the scene is like 18-year-old kid that has taken a high school class, right? That is like, had no CPR and does all this stuff and is able to provide care as a young person.
Yeah.
That's kind of being able to give award to somebody like that is able to jump into action, but is not, doesn't usually, not the normal person that you would think is going to jump in and do something awesome. And so hopefully we can utilize it in that way in the future.
So that's where, and we have it on our website now. We have the Cooper coin, we have the parameters to it, and we really wanted to make this beyond just the department. So we opened it up, whether it's the school system, whether it's members of the community. If you see and you highlight these things, there's a form, fill it out and send it in to us, because just like you were highlighting, it is leadership. It is leadership, but it's also our core values. So when we talk about professionalism, we talk about integrity. Maybe you see a child handle adversity, and you see them handle it with basically the maturity of what you would even want Jarett Blain to model as the SRO. Like, those are the types of instances that we want to see, we want to model. So we want to share these stories throughout, so we can continue to kind of shine a light on some of the positive pieces that we've got in the community. That's kind of the overarching. The idea grew. It was something that was beautiful, and it kind of snowballed into something that's even more massive. So
yeah.
So just rehash again. If anybody in the community would want to nominate somebody, what do they do?
You literally just go to the Dickinson Police Department website, and then I think under about, maybe just go to one of the drop downs and it'll say Cooper K. Craig-Mellmer Award. You click on that, and then you can read the parameters and everything right there, a little bit about Cooper, who he was, how awesome he was, and then down at the bottom of that page there's a link that says click here, basically, and it'll take you to a form that you can fill out online, and it comes directly to me.
Nice. And it really is. We were looking for something. How could we possibly get Cooper and his story to just kind of carry on and to be a part? When you think about what I just said, when it's like somebody going through adversity and somebody handling it with the maturity well beyond anything that they could have imagined, and the leadership and everything that Cooper had, like, this is a perfect way to kind of keep his memory and keep everything about what we loved in him and that piece, keep it going. So kudos to you for bringing that piece. Yeah. I got one more for you.
Okay.
I got one more for you as we go. We do like to, Mikey and I like to hear everybody's advice. You have a different story, you have a different upbringing when it comes to coming in here, which we highlighted at the beginning, but somebody comes to you and says, I'm just starting in law enforcement, right? Maybe I'm fresh, going to go to the academy here soon. What piece of advice do you have in knowing what you've done now in the past 5 years? What would be the one piece of advice you'd give to a new officer?
I probably should know that this is coming up. Should have thought about it a little more. One of the things that I think I've seen most of all, just in the little bit that I've been around, is kind of two things. One is always listen. I mean, if you're not listening to what people are saying, you're probably going to miss something. And whether that's ends up being an officer safety thing, or ends up being saving that person's life because they're suicide, I don't know, whatever it may be, just always listen. I think it's so easy for us to get caught up in what we have to say and doing things and solving the problem, that maybe we just need to listen. And so for new officers that are coming in, just listen to not only your peers in law enforcement, but also listen to what the people in the community are telling you when you respond to a call. Because a lot of times they're telling you what you need to hear. You just got to listen to it.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. I just definitely is an underserviced piece when you talk about communication.
Yeah.
It's both. It's listening, and then it's also using your words to communicate it. But I think that's a fantastic piece.
Yep. A story I like, I don't know if I like to tell it, but one of the things that for me in law enforcement that happened was, it's just kind of weird when you first become a cop because you're like, oh, I'm a cop. Like, oh, I got here. Now I hope I know what I'm doing, type of a thing. And I think every cop has that at some point in time. And to kind of tie this back to the beginning a little bit, when it was my first, I can't remember when it was, first or second year, when things kind of became very real for me as a cop. I responded to vehicle versus pedestrian down south, and that's when it became very real for me. And we talk about drunk driving, and that's what this was. Vehicle hit somebody that was crossing the road. It was dark, and he died. Right, and I was like 3 blocks away when the call came out. I was the first one there. A really crappy call. Like it just sucks going to something like that.
Right.
And that's when things became very real for me. And so the other thing that I would say to new cops coming in is, things are going to get real, And when you're not a cop and you come into this job and you haven't experienced things like that, maybe you have, I don't know, but you haven't experienced something like that, don't let that change your decision to stay in law enforcement, because it's that type of thing that can make you a better cop. Don't let that scare you, and find somebody to talk to, because if you just hold all that stuff in from a serious call like that, whatever it may be, whatever serious is to you, you're not going to make it very long. You have to have somebody. And for me, that's my dad. I literally will, like that night, or the next day, I remember one of the first people I called was my dad. Like, hey, this happened last night. He's like, yeah. And he told me a story about something he had, and we were able to talk about it, right? Yeah. And so that's cool. That's cool. But you got to find somebody, whether that's a chaplain, whether that's a spouse. Sometimes the spouse isn't always the best person to talk about that kind of stuff with, but find somebody, because if you don't have somebody, you're just going to internalize that stuff, and it's not good. It's not good for your mental health to internalize that type of stuff.
We really have found the benefit in exactly what you're talking about. Is you're looking for somebody that can be as judgment-free as you possibly can make it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like that's because that's the piece with a spouse. Is like you don't want that person to look at you different, because just like this job does change you. I mean, we don't even realize how callous you get after some of these things.
The dark sense of humor.
Yes, but you're really looking for you. If you're going to be vulnerable, you're going to be vulnerable only to the degree you think you're going to be judged. So if you can find somebody that can allow that healthy transfer.
That's actually really funny. My dad has, we had an officer involved shooting not too long ago, and I called my dad and I was like, hey, I know this happened. And I didn't really, to this day, I don't even really know the case. I don't know what happened, right? But the first thing my dad said was like, hey, if you need to give that guy my phone number, you can. I'll talk with him about it. Because he has an OIS in his background.
Yeah.
And so he knows, better than I do. And he's like, yeah, just give him my phone number. I'll talk with him. And I offered, didn't take me up on it, but that's fine. That's fine. No. That's okay. It's about putting it out there.
That's the
and I'll do this right now. If anybody, my dad would be totally okay with this. If you ever need somebody to talk to that doesn't know who you are, but you're struggling with something, my dad will talk to you.
That's excellent. No, that's honestly that's one of the more beautiful things about this profession is, the thin blue line sometimes now gets this negative connotation that we're trying to not hold each other accountable, that we're willing to, skirt the rules for each other. You know what I mean? Like the code of silence and things. But it really that's what. Yeah, that version of it, because there's been people in my life that had no ties to me. They had no obligations. They were not receiving anything from me, but were willing to be there at hard times in my career or different things. And it's like that's what sharing the badge is, and that's why when you see Chief Ciani doing more of a ceremony now with putting that badge on, and you're now being welcomed in, and you're now holding this not only is it an incredible responsibility, but you're now being welcomed into the brotherhood, sisterhood, just in a different way.
Yeah.
It's just a different, it's a different piece to the puzzle.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Jarett, thanks for coming on.
We still got speed cuff in here. We
do have speed cuffing.
Oh,
we do have speed
run up
cuffing,
on
so
that.
get ready on this. You probably haven't watched enough episodes to be fully prepared for this.
I haven't.
All this is I give you 30 seconds here. We just Matt's going to read you out some questions. Just try to answer them as quick as you can. The speed cuffing fashion. Get those cuffs on really quick. And if you need to pass, feel free to pass. And we'll see how you do. Are you ready?
Yep.
Here we go.
What was your high school mascot called?
Hawk.
The North Dakota program that handles referrals for unruly juveniles is called what?
Chins.
It's a layup.
What is the best cop movie of all time?
Pass.
What is the battlefield injury that presents an uneven rise and fall of the chest?
That would be. I want to call
Jarett,
it chest flail.
There you go.
Yeah, flail chest.
And then we got two more. We're done here, but you had to think too much. That's all right.
Blue Bloods. I really like Blue Bloods, by the way.
There you
I don't
go.
know if it's the best of all time, but it is good.
It's up there. Yeah.
What is the millennial term for someone's charm or attractiveness? Coming out of the middle school, this has got to be right at the tip of your tongue.
I don't got it.
Very disappointing. That's Riz.
Oh,
That is Riz.
Okay, yep.
Got it now?
You
All
see,
right.
see, I was thinking, huzz. Huzz is a term.
Oh, we don't know huzz.
So the term is, you riz the huzz. And huzz, I'm pretty sure it means hose. So I'm not really sure where that came in, but that's
we're going to really have to
that's the
test Mike's
lowdown.
editing skills in case maybe those are not things that we should be saying here on this. But no, thanks, Jarett, for coming on. We appreciate it. We did have some other things that we were going to jump into, but just like always, it seems like we get kind of wrapped up in the
on the second
conversation.
time.
So
Appreciate you, Padre.
absolutely.
Yeah, anytime. Thank you.
Take it easy, everybody.